more on the drop in precious metals prices. Joining us now is Gijsbert Groenewegen. He runs a precious metals hedge fund as the founder of Silver Arrow Capital Management. We have him on fairly regularly, and you are pretty bearish. You've forecast a collapse in the equities market sometime in the beginning of this year. And obviously, you're bullish on gold and especially on silver. What do you say about the drops we've seen? I mean, gold down about 6% so far this month.
Well, since October 2008, gold has basically doubled. I mean, we were 700 in October 2008. We've gone to 1400. So some profit taking is not, strange.
To be fair, the last time you were on with us, you did say you expected gold to come down before it goes back up the last couple of times. But when do you see the turn? I mean, does it drop 10%? Does it drop 15 or 20? I mean, what's the catalyst to bring it back?
Well, I think, for example, the uncertainty in Europe. Yeah, because gold also dropped on the back of the uncertainty we had with, all the budget, the deficits, and so on.
But things seem to be calming down a little bit in Europe. We talked about this earlier. You still think it's calm, but nothing's really changed?
No, well, I think basically what is going to happen is that it's not going to go away. I think the euro eventually will break up because we're looking at a structural problem, and you can't sort of, they're patching up the problem.
Even though Angela Merkel comes out and says, I'm going to do pretty much anything I have to do to support the euro.
But she has to sell it to, the people in Germany.
But is it just selling, Gijs, or is it she's saying, we got to protect this?
Well, I don't think you come out of this. I mean, the problems are too big. These are problems that have grown over the last 10, 20 years, and you're not going to change that in 1 or 2 years by just throwing some money at the system. And I think you see the same also in the US. I mean, let's for example, look at inflation. Last time I was here, we talked about food inflation. Yeah? And you see it really roaring ahead now. I mean, we have unrest in Algeria, and Tunisia, and Yemen, and whatever. And what I think, normally you see inflation is a good sign because it means that the economy is growing. But in the West, we see it as stagflation. I mean, asset prices are declining, and people are getting squeezed, especially in the middle class. Why? Because they have to spend more money of the disposable income on food. Yeah, so they get even squeezed more. So
and you don't see the inflation of home prices, which means they have less to draw from in the ATM that they're used to.
Exactly, and next to that, if we will combat inflation, interest rates are likely to go up, what we are seeing. So that will squeeze, basically, will depress real estate prices further.
Back in December, you favored silver over gold, though. I mean, is that where you're channeling money at this point? Is it silver over gold?
Well, I think that silver has much further to go. As I said, it very much depends on the situation.
On the way up, you mean?
On the way up, yeah. But also sometimes on the way down, because you have a higher volatility. So it also works on the way down. But if we get a sell-off in the markets, everything will go. Everywhere where the hedge funds can get the liquidity, they will sell it off. They have to sell it off.
But are you favoring silver over gold at this point? Is that the play you prefer when it comes to precious metals?
Again, on the way up, definitely. On the way down, I would prefer gold because the beta is lower.
Right.
Yeah.
Let me ask you about the risks to your bearish perspective, your bearish forecast, because I saw a slew of articles this morning, one about traders taking off their hedges against a declining euro because they think everything's cool over there with the aforementioned Angela Merkel's promise to save the euro. Goldman Sachs lawn bond shows inflation concerns are waning, and then super cycle leaves no economy behind as Davos shifts to growth. If we get amazing economic growth, does that solve all the problems that we have here with unemployment in Europe with the sovereign debt crisis?
No, definitely not, because we have much more debt than we had 3 years ago. The U.S. debt, I think, doubled in the last 3 years or something like that. It's incredible. So there's a fundamental different situation. Next to that, we have a very weak housing market, as you said yourself. People can't use their houses anymore as ATM. So where's the GDP spending coming from, even if the middle class is getting squeezed now also on the food prices? Because what we see with GDP growth at the moment, it's a very uneven recovery. I mean, 40 to 50% is contributed to the high earning incomes. So that is not healthy in my point of view. And next to that, 80% of the equity wealth is also owned by high earners. So the middle class is not benefiting from much higher equity prices.
You don't buy at all that things are certainly getting better. I mean, if you look at some of the economic reports, it's certainly better than it was a year ago. Yes, unemployment rate is high, but it takes a while for that cycle to work its way out. Things are definitely better than they were a year ago. You don't buy any of it, and that there's some momentum being created that will help kind of fix this problem. Maybe I'm putting on my rose-colored glasses right now for a moment, but you don't buy any of it.
So refreshing, Carol,
I know,
to see you in rose-colored glasses.
I occasionally do that.
But I look also at the demographics, and what you see in my point of view in the West is that you have a destruction of the middle class, where in the emerging countries you have a creation of the middle class. And I think it's very dangerous for the society we're living in, especially in the West, that middle class is being destroyed. As I said, these people are up to their neck in obligations and debts and whatever, and now they get food prices that are roaring ahead on top of that. So, what are you going to do? How many jobs can you work,
What could be done? I mean, I wonder, as we talk about Bernanke's QE2 and the possibility of QE3, that has fueled, obviously, inflation and commodities and foodstuffs around the world. What could be done to reverse that?
Well, I don't think there are easy solutions, that's for sure. Yeah, because it's a structural problem. But if anything, I would say simplify the tax code, bring the tax rate down so that you stimulate people to work and have all kinds of initiatives, and introduce, VAT and an energy tax, because you would basically solve the whole budget deficit problem pretty rapidly.
So maybe the president will talk about that in a State of the Union address. What do you think?
Well, that's going to be very important. I mean, if we see, the FOMC being less concerned about, indeed, the recovery in the markets, that could have a negative impact on gold. Yeah, and if the State of the Union is very positive and they're really going to attack the problems with some drastic measures, that could also be negative for gold. But like I said, I don't think there's an easy solution. And as my former speaker said, it's all about sustainability. And I don't think the sustainability...
By the way, are you buying in as gold comes down in price? Are you buying in? Is it an opportunity, as they say?
Again, I think... we live in a world where, circumstances change dramatically on a day-to-day basis. So you really have to look at all the circumstances. If we get a sell-off in the markets, you want to be out of gold and silver, wait till the sell-off has taken place, and then you buy it massively. It will be the opportunity of a lifetime.
So is that a no?
Sorry?
What is that? Is that a no?
I think, like I said to you, it depends on every day. I mean, look now, for example, at Moscow, where we had this attack at the airport. I mean, that's another factor playing.
He's keeping his cards very close to the chest.
You're not telling us.
I've told you what I think. I think on the long term, you would definitely want to be a holder of gold and silver. Long term, definitely, no doubts about it. You want to have fertilizers, and you want to have water. You know how much water is being used in order to give you 1 cup of coffee in terms of irrigation or whatever?
How much?
140 liters.
All right, so water, canned food, guns.
Exactly.
Fertilizer.
No, well, I think that's a little bit dramatic. But you know what I mean? I think you have to look at the fact that we see a squeeze in everything, like we saw with China in terms of importing instead of exporting.
Just the basics.
And I think it's the same going to happen for food.
All right, we got to run. Gijs, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Fun talking with you.